What's up guys, this is Astranox. This is going to be a guide, a review for martial artist Ken. If you have him, congratulations, he is really good. I'll talk about multiple things. First, his skills, his skill multipliers, his stats, skill up priority, the gear that you should wear on him, like different builds, artifacts, sets, best kind of setups, and I'll also talk about like where he shines in the game. So let's begin this thing with his skills. But first I want to go in the skill preview. Let's just look at his skills together. So this is skill 1. Skill 1 and the passive that counter attacks. And this is his skill 3. He's been in the game since the game got released. A lot of players have been looking for him. In top tier meta, like in arena PvP, he is I mean, he's very hard to gear for. That's one thing you have to get out of this. So let's begin with his skills. This has a 75% chance to decrease the attack of the target by 1 turn. That's really good. A very strong debuff. This passive is where it's at though. 30% chance to counter attack when attacked. So even if you don't receive a critical hit, any attack against him, he's got a 30% chance of counter attacking. It's not truly like any attack, because if a hero is already like counter attacking or using some mechanic that triggers like another skill or something like that, like these cannot be counter attacked. But yeah. 100% chance to counterattack with Dragon Flame after suffering a critical hit. Now that's so powerful, because in PvP, most heroes, I mean, offensive heroes are built with critical hit chance, like 100% or whatever, very high crit chance. And you'll see martial artists can counterattacking so often. And it's very scary. It's very scary, and especially when his HP, his health, drops down. I'll tell you why in a minute. And Dragon Flame, it causes a critical hit and deals damage proportional to the caster's lost health. So this scales off of his attack, but also the lower his HP, the more damage he does. Skill 3. This thing on a 4-turn cooldown after skill ups, and you got a soul burn for 10 souls. This thing has 75% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns. Very good. It's an AoE, attacks everyone. And also it increases the attack of the caster for 2 turns. Now the thing with his kit is that it has a lot of stuff going on for him. Not only does he have the decreased attack and the decreased defense, the 2 most powerful debuff in the game for offense and for defense purposes, but he also increases his own attack and the counter-attack mechanic. Plus, when he counter-attacks, he doesn't even need critical hit. But I'll talk about different ways you can build him. So let's begin with his skills. I kind of went through them, but the skill multipliers is skill 1 is 177%, and skill 2 is not the same as skill 1 actually. It is higher, and it scales off of his lost HP. So this passive is a multiplier of 213. So it's higher. It's higher than that 177 of skill 1. And the scaling is as follow with the lost HP. It goes 0.4% per 1% of his HP missing. So when he's at, let's say, 1% HP, there can be up to 40% additional damage when he counterattacks. Now that's why you're seeing a lot of martial artists using the artifact Sigurd Sight. So he gets low, Sigurd Sight boosts his attack, and he leeches like an incredible amount of health back, and you're like, what the hell just happened? The guy is back to full, and he just dealt like my whole HP bar in damage. Like, what is even going on? So that's very deadly. I'll talk about his stats, but oh yeah, skill 3, the multiplier on that thing is 168%. So 168%. When you soul burn, it becomes 206%. So that's an AoE. The damage on that thing is, I mean, it's not about the damage on that because, yeah, it's okay. But it's the fact that he is potentially landing defense down debuff, plus he's getting the attack buff. So if he lands this thing on the whole team, well, yeah, I mean, if you are using him on offense, you can just pick whoever got defense broken or something of the sort. But if everything happens in order, like he lands this, decreased defense happens, he gets the attack buff, and then maybe he gets attack, he counter attacks, he's got the attack buff and everything. And maybe it's his time to go now, and because this thing actually dealt damage mostly, like, he's of the dark element, so against a team, whoever is the squishiest will have taken the most damage, assuming they all hits landed as a critical hit. So he's gonna start picking off the one that has the lowest HP, and then yeah, the counter attacking begins, and it gets crazy. If you lose your damage dealer on your team, then you're stuck supports versus martial artist Ken, and then he still has a chance to counter attack even if you don't critical hit him. It gets really dangerous. So let me talk about his stats now. Finally, his attack is like very, very high. His HP and defense, though, they are on the lower side for a warrior. Defense is alright. HP is a bit low though. The speed is it's okay. It's okay. He has 23% crit chance. And now I'll talk about skill up priority. I would say that maxing this passive is big because counter attacks is where it's at, and it really depends the way you're gonna build him. But I would say that working on this first, I mean, you could just go +2 initially, and then like you could get some skill ups here. But it's really about those counter attacks. That's why this is such a high priority. Debuffs, it really depends. Like, he has so many stats that he needs to enhance that if you start to go after effectiveness as well, it starts to get out of hand really. But let me talk about what kind of builds you can be running for him. I would say, like I said, it's maxing skill 2, and then you could go for that -1 turn cooldown on skill 3 to have a higher uptime on, of course, the attack buff and the defense down debuff. So you could go like +2 here because the +3 might be quite expensive, and then you could go +3 here, or you could even go +3 here first, because the first skill up are usually very cheap. So you could also do 1, 3, and then complete this to the +2 and +3. So yeah, there you go. Now for the gear, let's talk about different artifacts that you can be wearing on martial artist Ken. So the most popular one is, of course, this artifact called Sigurd Sight, and it gets to like a point where it's quite ridiculous, the amount of health that he can gain back. So he's getting low HP, right? He's getting low HP. Now he attacks, he counter attacks, whatever he does, and he just restores like a huge chunk of his HP back because of this. And also he has a 25% attack increase. It's super annoying to deal with because his counter attack, the passive skill 2, deals more damage the lower his HP is, plus the attack buff on this thing, and like it just leeches so much. But the problem is that martial artist can be quite easily controlled or even ignored. Like if the enemy team sees that your martial artist can on your defense, let's say, be it Guild War, be it Arena, is built too defensively, they can just ignore him. But if he's built offensively, then they kind of have to take care of him ASAP. So other options here is, of course, Strike Gauntlet. Strike Gauntlet, if you're going with a high resist setup, let's say you're not going to be running the immunity set, you're going, I mean, I would say that for high-end play, you would probably go with a triple resist set with Strike Gauntlet. But that's quite hard to obtain early on, mid-game. You will have to farm Banshee a lot. But that's one way to build him, right? But there's so many different ways that you can build him. Strike Gauntlet is definitely a viable option for him. Other ways, other artifacts that you could be wearing is, well, there's Crimson Seed if you don't want to stack effect resistance. You could have an immunity set, and then like Crimson Seed could help you out to remove debuffs coming your way. This actually, as soon as it triggers, it will remove a debuff instantly. So it's very good. Another way to build him would be with Uberius Tooth, and that would be like a kamikaze build. Like he doesn't even leech life back. Like he would use the problem is that with skill 3 he will not proc it. It's mostly about his skill 1 and mostly about the counter attacks, but this could deal a surprising amount of damage to the enemy, like they're not expecting it. But it's definitely much smarter to go with Sigurd Side or go purely with like Strike Gauntlet. It's stack effect resistance. But like I said, like Crimson Seed could work for you. It's just that if you're fighting heroes that have so many debuffs, it's gonna be quite rough to fight against that. So the ways to build him, I would say, is that there's multiple sets you could be going for, and you could be wearing, like, it depends. You're gonna build him offensively, mostly offense, or mostly like defensively, and you kind of want to mix, like, you want to balance your stats. You want to balance your stats because if he's too squishy, then he cannot deal his magic. He cannot counter attack and like get his like attack buff up, start counter attacking and things like that. So you don't want to build him too squishy. But the destruction set with let's say an immunity set, that could be pretty solid, and you don't even have to worry too much about effect resistance, especially if he's being ran with some supports like cleanser or cleansers. You got some maybe like debuff immunity, maybe you got revive, maybe you got some healing, absorb, skill nullifier, whatever it may be on your team to help him stay alive as long as possible. Then yeah, it's about martial artist Ken is not about him by himself. It's about the team. Like, yeah, you see a lot of martial artists Ken soloing whole teams that don't have any sustain, or even if you do have sustain, if he's built offensively, he can do some pretty crazy stuff. Like, let's say he pops this, you got decreased defense and you're forced to attack him, and then it triggers a counter attack. You've got defense down, he's got the attack buff. He's gonna destroy you. Like, it happens so often. It's very, very dangerous. He can solo whole teams though. He can solo whole teams, but there's always a way to counter him though. So I would say offensively, you could go destruction, you could go attack set plus an immunity set. You could go, I mean, you could go a crit set for your 2-piece, even though this is 100% chance to crit when you counter attack. It's just that you kind of want this to land as critical hit, and this, like, you want a high amount of crit chance, but there's a way to build him with like maybe no crit chance and just rely on counter attacking, and you make him more tanky. So yeah, so I would say that you can also run him like defensively. You could run him on a lifesteal set or on a bunch of resist sets. So yeah, offense setup versus defensive setup, but it doesn't mean that if he's running on a lifesteal set, you have to build him more defensively. It's just that it's an extra source of leeching that will happen beside your Sigurd side. So I would say like the better set would be triple resist set with Strike Gauntlet. It's gonna be hard to get some crazy amount of resist on him. Like, I'm talking 200% plus effect resistance, including Strike Gauntlet. Even like 250%. That, like, in top teams in PvP, they're probably running something of the sort. Now for the stats, what kind of stats you want for him? Well, you could ignore resist completely, right? If you want to bring immunity set, if you have immunity set 2-piece on him, if you have some, like I said, cleansers on your team, if you're gonna support your martial artist Ken, then you don't have to worry so much about resist. But still, even if you're gonna support him, resist, I mean, there's just so many debuffs. He gets hit with attack break, he doesn't get cleanse, he gets hit with decreased hit chance. like he's not gonna do so much. The threat is when he starts counterattacking and he's got Sigurd's Sight, and he can, like, you can bring him low, but then he goes back up with the lifesteal from Sigurd's Sight. But if he's attack broken, he's got decreased hit chance debuff, then he's not gonna be able to leech back enough, and he's not gonna be a big threat. He can pretty much be ignored. That's why resist is such a huge deal for him. Even if you do have cleansers, it's on cooldown, and they can be maybe controlled. Maybe they're stunned, maybe they're silenced, or it's on cooldown, or something of the sort. The enemy team's too quick, so if he has effect resistance, he can keep the magic going. So that's why. So I would say still resist is like top priority for him. Crit chance, yeah, I would bring him to 100% crit chance, unless you want to just bypass that and not use any crit and rely on counter attacking. It really depends how you want to set him up. Maybe he's going to be part of your defense and you just want to stall, and you just want to potentially pick off some enemies with counter attack. So maybe you could skip crit, but I feel like crit, you should get 100% chance yeah. Attack percentage would come after, and then I would say you could have HP, you could have health percentage, or crit damage, but I would say that they come after those stats. And then you could have defense percentage, and then at the end you could have effectiveness. I would say in PvP, effectiveness is not going to be that big of a deal, because like there's so many stats that you need to aim for him, that effectiveness there's no room to just stack a bunch of effectiveness. And the higher you are, the higher league you are in PvP, the more resist they will have. So you're not gonna really be landing those debuffs from him really. And of course the decreased defense is the biggest thing in PvP, and it doesn't even have 100% chance to land. Of course 4-turn cooldown is not that bad, but the thing is, if you're not gonna be stacking speed, because yeah, speed should be part of it too, like, but it's about the counter attacks. That's the biggest thing with this hero. So I would say that just building him like with high resist, I would say, since it's so much about counter attack, you could bypass the crit. You would really have to test it out, but it depends. If you want to bring martial artist Ken like on offense for PvP, you're gonna need some crit chance. If you're gonna bring him in PvE content as well, you're gonna need some crit chance. You can't just rely on counter attack. So I would say resist, then crit chance, and then attack percentage, and then it would be HP percentage if you want him with more survival, or then it would be crit damage, and then it would be defense percentage. And effectiveness, I wouldn't worry too much about it, but yeah, if you want to use him in PvE, 55% effectiveness is usually the sweet spot to counter 70%. Sorry, 55% effectiveness is the way to counter 70% effect resistance on bosses. So I would say this is the priority I would go with. And yeah, I would say that he shines the most in PvP, of course. It could be Guild Wars, it could be Arena, it could be offense or defense. Of course, on defense, I would build him more tanky. I would build him more tanky, and like even on defense, like you could try it with no crit chance, right? And just work on the counter attack. That would be really good. And you could go very high resist, attack percentage, HP percentage. Even HP percentage on your gear could be a higher priority than attack percentage. And then you got, let's say, attack percentage, and then crit damage, and then defense. Even defense percentage could be higher than, because you have effect resistance. That's the thing. If you're going to be resisting those defense down, then defense percentage actually gets way more value, and you want to get more effective HP. That means you want to balance your health and your defense, because you know they're not going to be able to land those defense down on you, because maybe you have 200% effect resistance, and you really want to use that those defense increase stats to your advantage. So balance your health and defense are going to go that way, and you can make him like really tanky and still be quite dangerous, since maybe you don't invest in crit chance, but those counter attack could be deadly. So there's that. It's just you're gonna have to wear Strike Gauntlet. You're not gonna have Sigurd's Sight, and you will have to rely on support heroes to support him, to cleanse him, to heal him, to revive, absorb, skill nullifiers, things like that, to buy time. And yeah, so I would say that PvP is definitely where he can be deadly. He could be by himself and solo a whole team, but if you bring some teammates with him, that's where it gets really dangerous with him on your team. Now, for PvE, I would say that I was thinking about this, and Hall of Trials is actually not a bad place for him. Like, I mean, if they don't land a critical hit, it's only a 30% chance to counterattack, but the ads are attacking the front liner, right? So you put him in the front line, and he's going to be counterattacking quite often. So there's that. I was thinking about that. Of course, in adventure, you're farming your adventures, you're on recorded history, he's going to be a great soloer. If you got Sigurd's Sight, just that artifact with some decent stat, he's going to be like an amazing farmer. Of course, he's not going to be as fast as some AoE damage dealers like the Vildrids, things like that, but still, he can be an amazing support. Like bringing in a martial artist Ken, you know, like it's gonna go down and it's gonna happen. So very good there. I would say that in Labyrinth and Raid, I'm not sure how much morale he actually brings to the team when you camp, but because like you got attack break, attack down, 70, it cuts their attack in half. It says so there, decrease attack by 50%, and decrease defense, the reduction of 70% of their defense. I mean, his whole kit by himself, he could be your only damage dealer on your team, and you could even put him in the front line, because when in PvE, when monsters attack, they have a chance to just target the front liner, even though they are at elemental advantage against whatever hero you have in the back. They will attack the frontliner quite a lot. So I would say that putting him in the front line, making sure he will survive and support him, he could be your only damage dealer pretty much, and he will do amazing with his kit. It's just make sure you have 55% effect resistance, or just like 15% less effectiveness, than how much effect resistance the target has. You just press their portrait and check how much they have. So yeah, Labyrinth and Raid can be used there. Abyss, you can use him in there as well. Spirit Altar, I mean, they're easy, but I mean, you can probably solo some Spirit Altar with him, or at least duo with someone to support him. And I would say, yeah, you could bring him like in Golem, because you got attack break, you got the decreased defense, the self-attack buff, and the counter-attacks. Like, you know he's gonna be hit and there's gonna be some counter-attack happening. So 55% effectiveness, and you can build him way more offensively in PvE. So that's why, like, if you go with that route, then you can bring him in way more areas of the game than if you build him like a special, like more of a defensive setup with super high effect resistance, and maybe you don't put any crit on him because you're trying that out on defense. Then yeah, it's kind of weird. But still, if you build him with not so much, you could bring him with like 50% crit chance and have a hero that boosts crit chance, like a Challenger Domino, on your offense team in Arena or Guild Wars, and that could work. I mean, yeah. Also, I would say, like, yeah, Golem, you can use him. It's just there's better choices. Fire heroes are better, but still, if you have this hero, you will invest a lot of Molagora into him. So there's that. Also, you could use him in Azimanak Hunt. It's just that I was checking how many players are using martial artist Ken in these areas, and in Golem it's only 1.84% of the runs that are being ran with him, and in Azimanak Hunt it's only 0.68%, and then Banshee it's 0.13%. So it's very, very low. Of course, he's extremely rare, but still, he's not gonna be really for those type of content. But if you have him very heavily invested in him, then you could definitely bring him in more areas of the game. So there's that. So that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I think I covered pretty much all I wanted to say about this hero. But there's really different ways to build him. Test things out with him. It really depends where you want to bring him. But I would say that if you want to bring him mostly for PvP, work on your effect resistance. Is going to be a massive deal, because if no debuff lands on him, or very few, he will always be a threat. and you don't have, you just balance your stats, and don't forget about defense percentage. The defense stat when you have high effect resistance is gonna increase your yeah, it's gonna increase your maximum HP, your effective HP, your effective health it's called. So balance those, and yeah, have fun. Congratulations if you just pulled him. If you've had him for a long time, we're getting some heroes that are going to be nerfed very soon, and martial artist Ken could be getting more popular in the meta. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm Astranox. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. Press the bell icon for to be notified whenever I release a new video, and check out my other videos. They should be showing up on the screen now. Playlist of all sorts: Arena, Guild Wars, guides, tips, and how-tos, and Abyss Floor 62+. So check those out if you haven't. Also join my Discord server. The link is in the description. Good luck with all you do in the game. Peace out for now.